In my hands, I have one of the best Seiko watches I've bought for quite some time. Admittedly, I haven't bought many Seiko watches recently, but this one has impressed me. In order for me not to feel too glum about how much I spent on this watch, I did wait for it to be discounted, and the discount was pretty decent in the end. This watch retails for £400. I picked it up for less than 250, and this watch has largely gone under the radar. It's appeared in a couple of videos on YouTube, but that is it. And I would have expected this watch to make a bigger splash than it has. And I think one of the reasons why it hasn't really reached many people's radars is because the backstory to this watch is relatively unknown. Now, in the late 60s, Seiko made a light diver, a 70-meter diver, reference 51268090, a very cool looking dive watch. It was a Seiko 5 like this one is, so it was a relatively affordable watch, but what made that watch stand out in Japan was the fact that it appeared in a TV show called Kamen Rider, which means masked rider. And when the main character wasn't dressed up as a superhero, he wore this watch. Well, the original one from the 1970s. Hence, this watch has been nicknamed Kamen Rider. And I'm thrilled that Seiko have decided to include this in their reissue portfolio because I love Seiko watches. I love vintage Seiko watches, and there is, well, obviously a very strong vintage charm and aesthetic to this watch. Now, when I received this watch and I unboxed it, I was really quite pleasantly surprised. The packaging is a step up from your normal Seiko 5 packaging. And it comes with an additional leather strap, and it feels like a very good quality leather strap. Leather straps, Seiko, and I'm talking about genuine Seiko leather straps, are very difficult to come by in the UK, and they're very basic, cheap leather straps are not actually that cheap. I've imported a lot of Seiko straps from Japan. They're really, really cheap ones, and by the time I've imported them, each one's cost me £20. Well, this doesn't feel like one of those straps. This feels like a far more premium Seiko leather strap. I would expect this strap in the UK to cost £30 to £40. So when you factor that value into the price that I've paid for this watch, the actual watch itself represents good value for money on this occasion. Yes, I had to get it discounted for it to represent good value for money, but I'm very happy with what I paid for this watch. And I'm also very happy with the way this thing looks. It's very distinctive, isn't it? Yeah, I think it looks really, really cool. It does have a smooth bezel action. There's no clicks, and I've knocked it quite a few times while filming, so that's a bit of a pain, although at least it does feel really, really smooth and greasy. And because it's smooth and there's no clicks, well, I can't complain about bezel alignment. I suspect that's why they've done it. The finishing is surprisingly good as well. There is a transition at the end of the lugs, and that is incredibly crisp. I have reviewed Seikos costing significantly more than this, and they have been, well, not finished as well as this. So yeah, I'm really, really pleased with the standard of brushing and polishing. Each one's individually numbered on the case back as well. Yes, they've made 9,999 of them, but still, I like the fact that they've got individual numbers. And the date wheel contains both English and kanji days of the week. A nice touch. Let me run through some of the rest of the specifications that I haven't covered. 100 meters of water resistance, screw down case back, pull push crown, aluminium bezel insert. There is a lume pip at the 12 o'clock when it is at the 12. Domed hardlex crystal, of course that's very much in keeping with the style of watch. Drilled lugs, solid links, solid end links, and split pins. The clasp is pressed on the inside, pressed outer shell as well. A couple of micro adjustments. I think it's what we would expect, isn't it? It's not what we'd want, but it's what we'd expect. The loom is pretty decent. I'll show you the loom degrading at the end of the video. It almost keeps up with my MM300. And this thing looks great on alternative straps. Of course, they've given you an alternative strap, so they've designed it to look good on other straps. And yeah, it would go on almost anything, I think. I'm so surprised, actually. I love the backstory, the fact that this, and well, the original watch anyway, appeared on that TV show. It just makes the reissue far more interesting. And I think if that was common knowledge, this watch would have appeared on a lot more channels and probably on a lot more wrists as well. Not that the TV show is any good, sadly. I did try to sit through an episode. I found a channel on YouTube that shows 100 episodes, And yeah, I couldn't even make one, unfortunately. But let's not forget the TV show is over 50 years old. Older than me, if you're wondering. Now, despite me being this impressed with this watch, of course, there's quite a few changes I'd make to this watch to improve it, in my opinion anyway. I would give it sapphire crystal. I would give it a better clasp. This clasp does feel a little bit, yeah, cheap. I'd regulate the movement as well. I put it on the time grapher. Look at this. I'm definitely going to regulate it once I have finished filming this review. But yes, I'd make sure these watches were better regulated than this. I know it's within the tolerances, but it's still not great, is it? And I'd put a little bit of brushing on the case back because, well, that polished case back is going to get scratched up an absolute treat, isn't it? So yeah, it's far from perfect, and there will be lots of people complaining about the lack of sapphire crystal, the clasp, the bezel action. I actually wouldn't give it a proper bezel action. I'd be too afraid that the alignment would be off. So yeah, I'm quite happy with the non-click smooth bezel action. But yeah, overall, this thing has impressed me. I love the backstory. I love the fact that it's a fairly faithful reissue. I really like the colour of the dial as well. I haven't really mentioned that, have I? It's a gorgeous colour. There's a couple of colour options available. This, for me, definitely the pick of the bunch. Right, guys, let me know what you think. And yeah, what a cool backstory to a really quite cool vintage-inspired reissue by Seiko. Very nice.